Hey everyone! Today I'm going to demonstrate the first ever practical application video of memorization made easy. So today I'm going to walk you through the process. Before we proceed, I'll provide a brief walkthrough of the entire process involved. Understand the following though. The entire memorization process is a series of games. Let me explain. The first step is to make keyword associations. Think of it as the lazy learner's Scrabble. Try to find words within words. Generally speaking, the longer a word is, the easier it is to find an association. There's almost always a word or picture you can use though. The second step is to actually find the images for the keywords you come up with. Personally, I recommend Google Images, but use any movies or television series or famous photographers or anything you want. This is an example of some associations you can make for the word implementation planning. Imps, Clementines, or that Castlevania Lament of Innocence game. Any picture is good so long as it reverberates with you. Then, make some fancy flashcards. This is what I came up with, but you can use plain old rectangular vanilla cards if you want. The last step is what this video is all about. The practice. The practical application. The brass tacks. Here's 5 simple pieces of advice for you. 1. Don't study for more than 10 minutes at a time. Personally speaking, I think studying should never be difficult or tedious. Just something you do for a few minutes here and there. 2. Record your results and learn from your mistakes. From my experience, you usually remember most of the visual associations, but there's always 1 or 2 that resist internalization for whatever reason. 3. Put on some nostalgic instrumental music from your childhood. I've included some of my favorites in this video to demonstrate. 4. You need to practice frequently at first. The internalization is pretty shaky for the first couple of days, but if you continue to practice, the memories will stick for a long time. And lastly, 5. Celebrate often. Nothing complicated. When you finally manage to internalize a project, buy a chocolate bar, watch a movie, or just enjoy yourself, however. Work out if you want. Alright, so I'm going to show you how I did it. Monkey see, monkey do. Enjoy the music. The first tier is designed to be super easy. Mark the work immediately. You need instant feedback to correct your mistakes. The second tier is when you start to find out how well you've actually memorized the material. With the first tier, your brain has a habit of simply filling in the blank, rather than actually memorizing the material. The second tier is more difficult. The third tier is when the training wheels start to come off. No more hints. Mark the work. Now comes the only important test, the actual internalization of SAP HR. The internalization test is a fancy way of describing the process of recalling the key words using the visual associations you made without the physical clues themselves. As you can see, it takes me a few moments to recall the material in certain parts, and that's usually how the process works. Most of the material is easily memorized, but there's almost always a few terms that take a moment to recall. Now we repeat the process for implementation planning. Now that you understand what is involved, I'll be quiet while the music plays.
The most fascinating thing about science is the ideas, the lifting of the human spirit.
Sometimes a science will tell something about ourselves. It'll tell us who we are. Rarely, evolution did this and Copernicus did this, where we have a new understanding of who we are. And after all, we are our brains.
What we are, what you are, what I am, is a huge collection of cells. About 100 trillion at most recent count. 100 trillion cells. That's what you are. Not a single one of those is conscious. How can a collection of mindless, unconscious little robotic cells work together to create human consciousness?
Inside the cerebral cortex is the microscopic structure of thought. What we know is encoded in cells called neurons, tiny switching elements. Every connection representing one bit of information. How many neurons do each of us have? Maybe 100 billion, comparable to the number of stars in the Milky Way galaxy. And there are something like 100 trillion neural connections. But the brain does much more than just recollect. It intercompares, it synthesizes, it analyzes, it generates abstractions.
It is this complex interplay of chemical, electrical, and physical events which underlies the rich tapestry of everyday experiences. The sights we see, the sounds we hear, the feelings we experience, the activities we initiate, and the ideas we ponder.
Yes, we have a soul, but it's made of lots of tiny robots.
Our thoughts, our visions, our fantasies have a tangible, physical reality.
What's unique about the human brain is that we can think in hierarchies. We can create this whole elaborate structure of ideas, give it a symbol, a word, and then use that symbol in another structure. And then we can build up these elaborate structures upon structures. We call that knowledge.
It's here that we have ideas and inspirations, here that we read and write, here that we do mathematics and music. The cortex regulates our conscious lives. It is the distinction of our species, the seat of our humanity. Art and science live here. Civilization is a product of the cerebral cortex.
You are, I am, a pattern of information. We're not a bunch of stuff. These particles change over very quickly. The actual cells die and are rebuilt, reconstructed on a very regular basis. So we are not physical stuff. If you really attach any importance to your own identity, that identity...
Here are some parting notes. After completing a memory project or 5, you'll come to realize how important it is to relax and trust in your memory. Your memory is actually really powerful, but you can give yourself a version of the yips if you overthink the process. That's why I believe it's important to have some good nostalgic instrumental music playing in the background. Another way of saying it would be, what the mind has not imagined, the body cannot achieve. The second parting note I have for you has to do with maintenance. Memory, like a mental muscle, requires occasional maintenance in the form of exercise. You have to review the material periodically or risk losing it. Fortunately, your hard-earned memories will fade pretty slowly, and even if you don't revisit them for a lengthy period of time, the hard work you've already put in has been done, so it will be pretty easy to repave the memory highway. Thank you for your time. This has been a Loki Learning collaboration. Feel free to follow future memorization projects online at the following link. Have a great day.